Hi everyone, Talia from Zart Art, and today we're going to be creating a string art stitching. So here's an example of what we'll be creating. So if you've seen string art before, usually it's done with nails on a plank of wood. Sometimes that's not accessible for everyone, especially if you're doing it with a large group of students. So I've just changed the activity to be stitching onto a piece of card, but still applying some of those same principles as you would with string art. So here we've got two examples. Now, a fun fact with this project is that when you draw your design on one side and stitch it on the other side, it reverses. So you might notice this music note is the wrong way round, which is really fun way of creating artwork, especially if you're doing words. So you might want to note that for future reference. If you are drawing your design, your stitching is going to be the opposite way to your drawing. So, depending on whether you're following the positive space with your stitching or the negative space, we're still going to be drawing our design the same way. So I've got my little dragonfly design and I'm going to be stitching in this positive space here. So we're going to have a design similar to this music note where this positive space is going to be coloured. So I've just hand drawn my image onto a piece of card. So this is just a cardboard square, 300 GSM. You could use a cereal box or any other kind of packaging that's about 300 GSM because we're going to be poking holes in it. So the next step, once you've got your design drawn onto your card, is to put it down on a piece of sponge. Just take that needle out, make sure you know where your needle is. And using a T-pin, we're just going to poke holes around all of these lines. So just using your T-pin and into a sponge on the bottom, I'm going to poke holes, and you want them to be about 1 centimetre away from each other. So when you are making holes in your design, it doesn't have to be precise measurements because your string will be going over the top and outlining your shapes anyway, so you won't see where the holes are exactly. Now we've poked our holes into our picture. So this is going to be the side that our design will be sitting on. And I've just got some details in this part of our dragonfly, which we're going to alternate colours. So depending on what year level you're doing this with, you might want to keep it simple like this little music note and just do the same colour along the whole shape, or you can go a little bit more interesting and a little bit more complicated and change the colours throughout your design. Now we've got our coloured cotton thread here. So these ones are nice and thin, so very easy to poke through those holes. And we've just got our small needle here. So what I'm going to do is just thread this and then begin sewing. Now a key here is to not cut off too much thread because it can get tangled and it can be a little bit difficult to control. So I usually like to do about an arm's length. And then if you run out of cotton, you can just retie some more and start where you left off. So double thread that over and double that over again to tie off the end. And that will stop this end piece from going through your card. And then you can cut off any excess at the end. So make sure you start on your drawn side. And I think we'll start just in the middle here. Now this is going to be quite a long process, but what I usually do is just stitch around that shape, and then I'll show you what to do after you've outlined your shape. So as I'm working, I'm going to outline my first shape and then fill in my shape by going from dot to dot. So that will fill in my shape with a bit of color and add those line details. So I'm just going to work from shape to shape with my same color instead of outlining the whole thing. Because I've got the same color on my needle, it'll be easier to transition between each shape. So once you've outlined your first shape, the next thing I'm going to do is just go from dot to dot until I've filled in most of this area. So you don't want to fill in the whole thing with color. So something like this where there's still some empty space in between each stitch, and it'll give it that line of your thread going from spot to spot, but add enough color so you can differentiate from each shape or each area that you've colored. So once you feel you've had that area filled out enough and you want to change colors, just go back to the back of your square and just poke your needle through one of your stitches and just give it a little bit of a pull to get a small loop, and then thread your needle through, and that will create a knot. So then you can cut this off, change colors, and that won't unstitch. And if you want to be extra safe, do it twice because you never know. Okay, so now we've finished stitching all of our shapes. This can be quite a time-consuming activity, especially if you're changing from colour to colour. If you want something that's a little bit quicker, then you can make your design much smaller and do something simple like this little music symbol and just keep it to the same colour, and then that could take probably 1 to 2 lessons. But if you do want to extend your students, then have a design with more details and a few more colours that need to be changed. Otherwise, this is a really great lesson to teach students how to sew. If they're just learning how to thread needles and tie knots, then this can be much easier to stitch in a card with pre-made holes than having to stitch through fabric. So it's a really good starter to a textiles project. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.